The pirates. Miles quickly goes over the documents and internally sighs. Of course, the stories of conquering heroes would skip this bit. The tedium of running a kingdom. Things had sounded like such a good idea to turn this planet into a little dukedom for himself and his girls. But apparently the boys under him had been the smart ones. There's just so much to freaking do. Yes, farmlands are being set up in the parts of the continent formerly occupied by those mass-murdering witches. Yes. There was even a tourist pull there due to people wanting to see the battlefield, where Franklin had straight-up murdered two of the world's biggest nightmares on freaking livestream. But nope. Even with him and Agenda and Vooney working hard at this, there was the debates as to who among their applicants for a farm would be getting what farm and what they would be planting, and the proper prices and where the buildings would be set up and the infrastructure and on and on and on and on. It's so much easier when you can just shoot your damn problems. He grumbles, and there's a snort of amusement from nearby. He looks over to see that Agenda's just relaxing. He looks the other way, and Vooney is gracefully reclined and sipping something that would taste like a Shirley Temple at worst, most likely. Neither is working, and both give off the air of being done. All right, what did I miss? Delegation, my dear, delegation, Agenda says with a smirk. We're passing on the duty to those in charge of certain areas. It's why there are lesser nobles beneath the highest ranks. No one person can run an entire nation by themselves, not even a small one. There are too many peoples wanting to do their own things, too many laws and regulations, too much everything. So you cut up the work and assign it to those more suited to it, or those who clamor for more power. Or maybe someone needing both direction and well-suited to the area, Miles realizes. Someone with popularity there, too. Someone like Franklin. You're still on the farms? Goodness me, my dear, you need to pick up the pace or you'll find yourself buried under the tide. Vooney muses with a giggle. I suppose it is kind of obvious to pass off this area to him. Not just for the fact he reshaped the land there, but also that he's on a bend about finding peaceful uses for Axiom. What was that about anyways? He went from looking at everything imaginable to focusing more on building and restoring things. Not that it's not absurdly useful, especially his city-building abilities, but it's a strange change from a man I spotted literally playing with fire. It's about how he killed Butcher Bitch. Butcher Bitch, wait! That is what you refer to the late Yvette Carbon as? Vooney asks as Agenda snorts in amusement. Yes, we called Yvette Carbon and Gem Finnel, Vooney supplies. Right her. During briefings, we referred to them as Butcher Bitch and Thunder Thought, respectively. Anyways, when Franklin straight-up executed the Butcher Bitch, he was in a heightened state of awareness. Time was moving slower in his mind. This made it so that his every move was meticulously planned even as he went. So when he killed her, Vooney realizes. 10 seconds to us, 10 minutes to him. He didn't even blink as he guided the agitated Axiom into every bit of her body and reduced her to a charred skeleton. The way he says it, it was the dirtiest way he could possibly kill someone, and the only way it could be worse is if he found a way to draw it out longer. Miles explains before putting the pad to the side. Now the bit that has him spooked is that part of him wanted to. Those two crazy witches showed all the messed up ways Axiom can hurt someone, and he gets it. He knows the appeal, and the fact he gets it has him spooked. Then it's probably best that he does get that area, Agenda muses. Few better ways to take that sort of deal than to make something good out of it. If the man puts his dedication there and makes a breadbasket out of that battlefield, then not only does Vucha get well fed, but he'll likely sort his shit out as he works. An excellent point. Now how do I do this? Miles begins, and then pauses as Vooney saunters over to sit with her massive breasts covering his back and reaching over his shoulder. Just here, like this. She purrs in his ear, and he can't suppress a slight shiver. We'll sort out the ceremonies and such to make things nice and official later. But first we send the parcel of land over and let him know he's soon to be a baron, so he better get moving on building an estate. Agenda remarks as she picks up a nearby data pad and quickly taps a few things out. Might encourage the silly boy to start taking more wives soon. The man's still effectively a bachelor with so few women in his life. It would be shameful if it wasn't so exotic. Vooney sniffs before giggling. I wonder what the silly man will make for a crest. He'll be entitled to craft one as a newly ascended noble, but all the major shapes and iterations have already been in use somewhere in the galaxy. It's always good fun to go on a scavenger hunt when a new power puts up their grand symbol and you look into what else the symbol's been up to. Oh, please, knowing him and the rest of the guys, they'll go on a scavenger hunt for the most controversial symbols in and out of cruel space and then give me a choice between the symbols of shit like the Nazis or that of a band of notorious slavers or rapists or something. Considering the simplicity that your people, the Undaunted, are trying to do by having a... What are they called again? Ah, yes, a T within a U as a symbol. Didn't you say that could also stand for the Ultramarines, whatever that means? It was a bad joke brought on by spending too much time listening to the Nerd Squad. It's a reference to a war game setting that's in a competition with itself and its fan community for how awful it can be. Awful as in poorly written or awful as in a terrible place to be? Vooney asks. Mostly the latter, but the former tends to crop up too. I only know about things a bit. Everyone's horrible. No one trusts each other. No matter what you do, it won't get better and things are already so bad it beggars belief. Sounds like some of the more wretched worlds rumored to be in wild space. Vucha was on the long, slow road to becoming such a pit before you all intervened, Vooney says with a touch of sadness. What are they like? Generally, they're ruled over by one or two complete lunatics with obscene amounts of power, and often a cult dedicated to slavishly indulging their most depraved whims. Imagine if Carbon and Fennel were the undisputed queens of a world, and you're getting the general idea. Agenda spits out as she puts her datapad to the side and visibly calms herself down. You've been to such places, Miles realizes before mentally berating himself for bringing something like that up. My homeworld was made into one. The Dark Cabal could get far-reaching with the hell they brought to others. What happened to it? Miles's curiosity drives him onward on the grim subject. After a few years where they culled the strong from the weak, they loaded the ones they liked up into ships and made us open fire on our old home. It's a blasted ruin. What's left are dead cities, burned forests, and pummeled mountain ranges. I'm sure it's healed somewhat, maybe even been restored in full. Time has a way of wiping away all accomplishments, both good and ill. You've never gone back? No. It was a backwater to begin with. Easy prey for the Cabal. Just 2 explosions and we were completely cut off from the wider galaxy. How do you humans say it? Fish in a barrel? Yeah. That sounds about right. Miles thinks. What about our planetary defenses? Could they stop that? No. Not as they are now, and you're missing some important bits in the plans. Bits that I've taken care of. I'm taking care of hidden communication pylons, emergency caches across the planet, fallback shelters, and unregistered weapon stores. Without a large army, we need cunning, and cunning is often just preparation put to good use. The fortresses on the water, Miles realizes. They were loaded with weapons, but the steam from the orbital lasers flash cooked everyone inside. Once it cooled, it would be a simple chop job to break them down into working anti-vehicle armories, and even easier to hide them all over the place since they'd be tougher than hell and could be literally just buried in the backyard, or lost in a river or pond with just a touch of waterproofing. Portwin, Scaleway, and Shellgather are all armed to the teeth. Each of their boats has the firepower to knock fighter craft out of the sky. Each of its peoples are armed at all times. They have a new tradition to go around with at least a rifle. Their homes have more and the children practice for sport, Agenda explains before smiling. If anything even close to the Dark Cabal comes to Vusa, they won't find a victim. They'll find their grave. I'm impressed. I knew you were up to something, but you kept it too close to the chest for me to casually pry it out. How long have you been planning something like this? Vooney remarks. When you don't have a choice but to obey. When all you do is go from one hell to another. You have a lot of time to think. A lot of girls just tried to forget, but I remembered, and I planned. I'd fall asleep thinking that if we had just one rifle or pistol in just the right girl's hand at the right time, or maybe just one cannon mounted on just one air car. It's a habit I never lost, Agenda says with a huff. I wonder, Miles thinks out loud as the mental image of a 3-dimensional minefield fills his head. It would likely be a small swarm of kamikaze ships. Press of a button, and it could strategically relocate itself and launch or return for storage so as not to be a menace. You know, we could probably start a friendly competition. See how many defenses and offensive options we can pack into one world without remaking it into a gigantic superweapon. Make this little planet straight up impossible to invade? I like the sound of that. I want my daughters, granddaughters, and great-granddaughters to have nothing but wonderful, long, and loving lives. Unfortunately, I can only make one place safe for them, so it will be here. On Vutsa. Well, that's certainly planetary security covered. It would take a fortress world to match it, assume. Also a mystery solved. Such a productive day, Vuni muses as she relaxes a little more. Mystery? Why so many of the Dark Cabal's traders went into piracy? No other options, so they simply used the skills they were forced to master and remaster until it was their speciality. Are atrocities like the Dark Cabal common in the galaxy? What Miles is really asking is if there needs to be more units of hunters splintering off from the Undaunted to take out some galactic trash. Common is not a good word. The galaxy is too large to use a word like that. But in general, there's usually 2, perhaps 3, or even 4 such organizations operating at any one time. The galaxy is a big place, and if only 1 in a few million true blue monsters gets even half a chance to do something so horrific as found a new Dark Cabal, then it's all but guaranteed to happen eventually. There are just too many dark corners where the cruel can fester and build power, too many gullible idiots and easily stolen weapons. Too much everything to stop anything from happening, really. All you can do is control the local area. Protect what's close to you, and prepare in case something spills over from elsewhere. Vuni explains at a bit of a length. I see. So that was a yes. So I just had an idea to reinforce Vutsa a little more. It's basically a small fleet of unarmed but well-armored drones. We give them explosion-prone engines and basic programming to converge in certain areas and to return to base. If we catch wind of trouble, we deploy in the path of the enemy, and if they sense anything, regardless of IFF, then they accelerate to full speed right at it and ram. Effectively a minefield in space. That won't do much against more paranoid foes who'll just shoot them down from afar. No, but it will slow them down somewhat, or at least distract them long enough for us to get a better handle on the situation. It will also cause ruinous damage to the more brash and headstrong enemies that may come knocking. Very true. Not exactly hidden. Koga breathes in deeply as he moves his hands slowly through the mudra, his hands in the seal of the thunderbolt as he thinks. As he moves them into the seal of the great thunderbolt, he considers further. He had known his great-grandfather for his entire life, a man that had always seemed so small, so weighed down by the world. Grandfather Daiju had always been so very sad. He had seen the world shift so very, very quickly, and at times he could not recognize his own home. Only in shrines, in nature, and when surrounded by family did he seem to know where he was. The stories had been both awe-inspiring and so very, very sad. There was so much Koga could never forget. Not from his grandfather. Not from the last true ninja in his family. Old, and while still loving life, he was clearly expecting it to end soon. There was a weight to a man that not only knew how to kill you with ease, but had seen so much he could scarcely explain it. Koga shifts to the seal of the outer lion and recalls the look of distant, bitter horror whenever his grandfather would speak of Hiroshima, how he had felt his spirit break as thoroughly as the city had been, how the world was changing faster and faster and he would never really find himself in it again. Then he would grow quiet and refuse to speak for an hour. Days later he would speak of such again and grow quiet once more. His fingers now in the position of the inner lion, and Koga lets out a deep breath as he pulls his mind from his distant grandfather and towards the forest itself, or rather the will of the woods. He quickly forms the outer bonds mudra followed by the inner bonds. He needed it. This thing, it was effectively a kami. To feel the breadth of its awareness was nearly mind-numbing. The closest sensation he had ever felt was that first, and so far only, look backwards to Earth and seeing just how small everything he had ever known was. He empties his mind and completes the next 3 mudra, the wisdom fist, the ring of the sun, and the hidden form. He exhales once more and feels all his stress and discomfort exit with the inner wind. In a single movement he rises and pulls his glasses out of his breast pocket. He then starts walking back to the hidden village, or rather, the not-so-hidden village, as a straight path complete with stairs had been made from the village to the edge of the forest. Visitors were welcome, but only so long as they came in peace. As for the village itself, it was 104 buildings total. The vast majority were small houses. They were maybe the size of a bachelor apartment, each with a small fireplace for cooking and warmth. a bedroom and personal storage room. A communal latrine served as the 102nd building, and a food storage house and a communal meeting building were the 103rd and 4th. The last one was the largest by far. That was the easy part. The rest would be built by hand. Something to teach, something to learn. He quirks a slight smile at the sight of Jeth Urla and the new kid that literally wandered in the previous night. Mux Moro was a curious, inquisitive sort that wasn't traumatized, wasn't hurt, wasn't even unhappy. He just really wanted to be a sorcerer because they were so cool. The little brown-haired spit of energy had promptly declared Jeth Urla his new best friend and all the men the coolest people to ever, and was really happy to be here. Koga's fervent hope was that Mux would be the standard for students to be, rather than Jeth. Still, the two kids were being kept on task as a forge, and Smithy was being slowly built by hand. Stone by stone, branch by branch, handful of clay by handful of clay, it was all coming together. The muscles of the two children being hardened by labor without the aid of axiom, and basic lessons being taught as they work. Bernard, one of his Koga ninjas from their time in zero gravity, was currently explaining the importance of good manners with the very simplistic logic of, it costs you nothing, but can buy you a lot. The forge itself was taking shape. A little circular chimney for hay, coal, or charcoal to burn in and superheat whatever ore they find. Then they'll gather it from the bottom and test it all before forging it together with more heat. Simple, practical, and something to work at as a skill. Something they could be proud of and could show off later in life. Practical, too, with just a touch of axiom. Down below, on the next level down, were several fields for vegetable crops being planted between the massive roots of the titanic trees. Carnivores the Apuk may be, but that doesn't mean there isn't enormous use for plant matter, the least of which to feed the humans or to bait out creatures you wish to hunt. A whisper in the air informs Koga that his musing is timely. A hunt has been successful and a large paratak has been felled. The enormous scavengers are the local equivalent of boar, but bloated to the size of an ox. Without axiom, they'd be like hippos. Harmless looking at first, but obscenely dangerous by any metric. The beings are quite round, almost appearing to be balls with a shaggy rug tossed on them at first. Then they unfold powerful but stumpy legs and charge. A combination of tough hide and tougher fur make them nearly impenetrable in battle, and its sheer bulk allows it to shatter the limbs of anything it fights, which then leads to its next meal, as these scavengers are as omnivorous as any boar. Tamed examples of the race are a food staple in most Apuk cities, and no village is complete without at least a small ranch of the creatures. He makes his way quickly to the side of the plateau where the triumphant hunters are quickly ascending. His eyebrows go up in surprise as the paratak carcass is hurled at him with a laugh, but the axiom flows easily and he catches the enormous beast. The power flowing through him renders the enormous thing seemingly weightless, but still an absurdly awkward thing to carry. Where its fur isn't shaggy and matted with leaves and mud, it's instead very short and fine, ill-suited for gripping. The stump limbs ending in hooves, however, offer plenty of grip, and he sets down the enormous thing. Well, actually he tried to hold it to the side, but stronger or not, it's still heavier than him by an order of magnitude, and it's a minor miracle it didn't knock him over, axiom or not. Was that supposed to accomplish something? He asks as the hunting party returns. They have several smaller bits of game as well. Local fowl and some long, feathery serpents. Just making sure you're on your toes, Sensei. Nothing heinous, one of the cretins says, and Koga shakes his head in annoyance. Right. Well, you all said you had hunting and skinning experience. Time to give me and the men down below a crash course. Oh, sure, it's easy enough. The real trick is to make sure you don't puncture things. It's all about cutting, not stabbing. Good, because we need to be careful with these things we haven't... Do you think I'm an idiot? I've not only got practice with dressing carcasses, but I've looked up this thing's anatomy and a couple of how-to videos. I'll play around plenty, but when lunch is on the line, I make sure I get things done. Then by all means, show us how it's done, oh master of the meat. Oh no, we need a grill or a spit for that title to stick. Flame-kissed isn't bad, though. Sure enough, in less than 30 minutes, most activity around the small community has stopped to witness the butchering of the paratak with Jeth and Mux front and center. Both grossed out, but neither willing to look away until the other does. Now, kids, the reason I'm showing you all this with the knife work is that axiom makes a lot of things too easy. The forest does provide, the wood is on your side, but at the same time you need to really appreciate just how much it does for you. Dale, the nephew of a hunter and trapper, explains to his borderline captive audience. He had just finished gutting and carving one of the few fowl that had been caught after the big job of the paratack being dressed was done. But how much does the axiom help? I mean, it's in everything, right? So how can axiom not be used? Mux asks, and Dale chuckles in understanding as he holds up the second of the 3 fowl they caught. See this scurry bird? Dale asks, and both boys nod. You remember how it took me a few minutes to gut and pluck the other one? They nod again, and he grabs the carcass by the sides and runs axiom through it visibly. The guts fall out, the feathers molt off, and the feet and head just tumble off. There. One perfectly plucked and gutted bird. See how easy the axiom makes it? Then why are you even bothering with knives? Why not use just axiom? It's better anyways, Jeth asks, and Dale smirks. Is it? Dale asks, and Jeth and Mux both nod. In response, he holds the 3rd scurry bird carcass out to them. All right, then. Both of you use axiom to pluck and gut this last one. You saw me do it with the knife. You saw me do it with axiom. It should be easy now, right? Yay, of course. It's something like, Mux says, grabbing the carcass, and he and Jeth hold it between them. There's a surge of axiom followed by a slight bang, and both boys are covered in gore. What happened? Jeth demands in a shocked tone. I'll explain while we clean you two up. Hey boys, the snakes are edible but not on normal menus, so it's an exploratory bit of butchery here. I'll be with the kiddos, Dale says, stepping out from around the large stone he'd been butchering the beasts on. I'll help. This is a learning moment, Koga says, and both men herd the children towards the river so they can wash up. I don't get it. We did the same thing. I focused on what I wanted and moved the power. What went wrong? Jeth asks after a few moments of rinsing gunk out of his hair in the cold water. You didn't know what you were doing, Dale says as he splashes some water on Mux, who's full-on waded into the shallows of the river. Yeah, but wait, you said this is a teaching moment, so there's something hidden here, Jeth says with a confused look on his face. Oh no, we're not doing that. That kind of teaching is more for philosophy and moral dilemmas. They're to get people to think more clearly while nudging them the right way. What you two did wrong is that you forgot that for as many options as Axiom gives you, it's just a tool, a fast-working and powerful tool. Yes, but in the end, only a tool, Koga answers. There's no actual difference to my slowly carving things up with a knife or using the Axiom to flense and prepare it. It's just faster with the Axiom because I can do everything at once. Most things you can do with Axiom you can do another way as well. And if you know those other ways, then it's very, very easy to do it with the Axiom. I spent a lot of time skinning and gutting things growing up. My family has a strong hunting tradition. Because of that, I generally know what the inside guts of an animal look like, and with Axiom, I can make the right cuts in the right places with ease. You saw me just shake the bird, but I made dozens of cuts, plucked every feather, and chopped off both the feet and the head. I just did it all at once. Is that why we're helping to build that furnace by hand? Mux asks. That's it exactly. If you know how to make things by hand, then Axiom speeds it up immensely, Koga explains. But how often will we need to make furnaces? I mean, they're useful, but aren't they just another tool, meaning a step that can be skipped, Jeth presses. The furnaces themselves? Yes, but a furnace is made up of a stern and steady wall just wrapped up tight and with holes in the right places. You're also learning how to build walls, and you're building muscle too, Koga answers. Why do we need that? Jeth asks, and Dale chuckles. Because if your muscle is strong to begin with, then you don't need to use Axiom as much to become strong. Also, a healthy body leads to a healthy mind. Sometimes working your muscles can help you think. In fact, after dinner, I'm going to walk you both through some exercises designed to do just that. To clear your head so you can think better while also strengthening your bodies, Koga says before grinning. Actually, that sounds like something we should get the entire town doing all together. Something to begin and end the day with. Some basic PT every night and morning? Sounds great, Dale notes as he reaches out and plucks a bit of gunk off of Mux's horn.